Yogi Berra in a SGC 5 versus a PSA 5 of Yogi Berra in 1952 tops. What are the difference between these two? SGC worth X, PSA Yogi Berra in a PSA 5 worth Y. So a little premium there on Yogi. So we could just go through a number of examples here, and we could show some difference between the two, between just patterns. It's not which company is better than the other. It's really personal preference, although the data is going to show that some of these hold their value more over time. All right, and then let's talk about one final part here. Certification numbers. So PSA changed their standards, I think it was a few months ago, maybe it was about a year ago, to where this is an older certification number. I guess that's in the millions, 6.5 million. And then over here, you might have something that's more like, 66 million. So this is a more recent slab. Well, it used to be that you could have 60-40 on centering. So 60% on this side, 40% weighted to that side, and that would still get a PSA 10. Now that's on modern, but it still sort of will apply to vintage as well. But they changed that to 55-45 in order to get a higher grade. And the sort of it goes down. So PSA 8 might be, 75-25. I don't know if that's the exact number, but they did change their standards. So some have started to command a little bit of a premium off the newer serial number. So if I were buying vintage, I would look for the newer serial numbers in PSA slabs. You can cross over a card. So if you want to take a SGC 8 and get this in a PSA slab, you can do that. Now they're going to send it through their grading process, and if they agree with that transfer, that it is worthy, PSA agrees with it, they will cross that over. They'll crack this slab. They'll put it in a new one for you. They'll give it a new certification number, PSA 8. But let's talk about that for a second. Let me flip this camera around here. So recently, PSA acquired SGC and Beckett. How about that? So what does that mean? We have no idea. Some have thought, well, maybe, they may cross over. An SGC 8 could be a PSA 8. Don't know, but that would definitely be a market changer. So these are all things to sort of keep an eye on. But, if I were advising on what to, add to your collection, what to look for at shows, it really depends on the collector and what their goal of collecting is. Some like that SGC slab. I prefer it in that white sort of background. If I show an example here. So this white background here, if I can get the reflection off my head here. I prefer that in a black matte finish. That seems to frame the card in nicely, and I prefer that. But if I wanted to increase my portfolio, the value of the sports card portfolio over time, at the moment, full disclosure, I would recommend sticking to PSA slabs. It costs a little bit more to send the card in. It takes a little time because of backlog. Likely worth it over time if there's any parallel to the coin industry, which I think there is. So be sure to comment if you have any questions on that. I'm not here to give financial advice, all the full disclosures as far as that goes. But in my experience over time, I have noticed that PCGS was probably the slab to hold, or if you were buying. But I actually prefer that NGC slab. I think it's great. So, that's a personal preference thing there. And then I'm just sort of curious if we're going to see the same hold true in the sports card industry. So my preference is to lean with PSA at the moment. Does not mean I don't have some SGC slabs, because there are certainly good ones like that SGC 8 of Clemente that I like. So on the next video post, this was part 3 of the series. We're going to do a randomizer. We'll video it. Details are in the text below. If you want to check that out of how to enter, be sure to comment, like, make sure you're following. We'll post the video here shortly. We'll put it in a randomizer. We'll throw a dice. If the dice is rolled a 4, we'll put all the names in a randomizer that have liked, commented, following. The top, we'll click it 4 times. If the dice says 4, if it's 6, if we roll the dice, it says 6, we'll click the randomizer 6 times, whatever. And the top name will win the 1969 Roberto Clemente in PSA 5. Centered up just how I prefer it, of my favorite baseball player of all time, Roberto Clemente. Thanks for watching and sticking with us. We'll see you next time.